Thank you so much, Swamiji. That was so powerful. As we say in the United States, that's a hard act to follow. I hope you won't mind us speaking in English tonight. I know there's been many conversations and presentations in Hindi, but tonight we are going to do in English with Gauri Sagar, and I'm going to introduce her a little bit. But I feel so honored that we're sitting right in front of you as we go into this conversation. Because Swamiji really gave the big cosmic perspective and the moral values of the Ramayana. Now we want to bring it down to earth. Earth, which is basically our personal experiences with the Ramayana, because I think everyone in this room, everyone here, saw Ramanand Sagar's extraordinary video production of the Ramayana in 1988, 1989, which swept across India. 600 million people watched that video series, the most watched television series in history, and I don't think it'll ever be surpassed. It changed the course of India, the way people thought. For once, Ramanand Sagar took all the regional versions of the Ramayana and for once pulled them together so everyone could feel, this is my Ram, this is the Ramayana, this is my Sita. It united the consciousness of India. Such a powerful, powerful impact that it's happened. And right now we want to take all the beautiful ideas that Swamiji talked about and relate our personal experiences, because Gauri Sagar is a member of the Sagar family. Could you imagine growing up in that household? Gauri was only about 10 years old when that series was being put on and developed. So she had the vision of a child looking at the way the Ramayana was put together, looking at the way the family worked together. And we just want to take you inside the world of the Sagars, because Ramanand Sagar was not only a great director, a great film director, which was already going on for the past 20, 30, 40 years before the television series, but he was also a deeply enlightened soul who brought out tremendous depth and spiritual value. So we want to take you into that world with Gauri Sagar and what it was like in the Sagar family when the Ramayana was being created. And I guess that's the first question I would ask you. Gauri felt she would be more comfortable doing this as an interview and a conversation. We're inviting you into our conversation, saying, what was it like? You're 10 years old. You're on the set of the Ramayana. What was it like with the whole family working together, putting on this production? You were just watching it because you were so young. What did it feel like? What did you learn?
Yeah, thank you, Michael, for such a generous introduction. I was really young, and I have to say that it's just grace that I was born in this family, and in today's world we call it luck. So I have gratitude for that. And being on the sets was like being in an enchanted fairy tale, really. You could see gods talking from the sky, monkeys flying and talking, magic being done everywhere. It just felt like a fairy tale. But it was extremely educative, and somehow the teachings of the Ramayana, just by being on the set, we just became a part of it. And we could see the practical application of that in the family.
Close to your mouth. Hold the mic a little closer. Really close, and project. A little louder.
We could see the practical application in the family, where it actually maintained harmony in a family of 40 people. We all lived in one house for many years. And that was the magic of that place, where everything was... we had havans in the house. We had mandatory pujas. We had to attend. We had to be there for havans. And as children, we didn't want to do that. But Papaji, my grandfather, he used to tell us that just attend it and it will affect you somehow in your subconscious levels. And it did. I don't know how it did it in the earlier ages, but when we grew up, we saw the benefits of it. I grew up with 13 cousins. And all of us were a team, a very strong team in our society, because actually of the Ramayana, we try to copy Ram and Lakshman, and we try to copy the characters to actually maintain the harmony. And while the rest of the society was playing with imported gadgets and fancy toys, we were creating bows and arrows with bamboos, and we had games where we were jumping from the first floor to try and land like Hanuman on the ground. And a lot of it, just in the game, we spoke about the TV show. So I think after a while, I kind of realized that the entire family of 40 we had become the Ramayana. It was, I think that's what it was, yeah.
And tell me, I mean, Ramanand, it shaped, you know, your relationship with your grandfather shaped your relationships. His wisdom, his intelligence guided you. What were some of the ways that your interactions with your grandfather really shaped the way you looked at the world?
So, I think he did the best thing he could do for us, which in today's world is, I think, extremely important, and I think it's the only way to be, is he introduced us to meditation. And as kids, I remember being really frustrated, sitting in one place and saying, Papaji, nahi ho raha hai. I can't do it, you know. You're asking me to see a light in front of my face where there's nothing in front of me. And he used to keep telling me that, no, just focus. There's a world inside you. And he used to often use this reference, which none of us used to understand, and we used to giggle about it, was the part where baby Krishna opens his mouth, and Yashoda, his mother, sees the entire Brahman in the mouth, the universe, and it scares her. So he used to explain to us that there is a universe inside you, and the best way to live in this world as a traveler that he called us for 100 years is with grace, peace, harmony, and with respect. And the only way to do it is to balance your inside world so that your outside world balances automatically. A concept that I understood maybe when I was 30, 35. It changed everything for us, where even my aunts, my uncles, they used to take us camping every Sunday in the small Maruti van, 14 of us in this small van, and the entire time my uncle used to talk about how we should interact with nature and understand nature first before understanding anything else. That's what Papaji really taught us, that the language of nature is the first language you need to learn before you learn any man-made language. That's your relationship with this universe.
That's beautiful. Yeah. I know, you know, when you think about the depth of the spiritual values that came out with the Ramayana series, and then, by the way, I should add, Gauri's father, Anand Sagar, was the creative director of the first series, and then her father Anand and her brother Shakti. There was a 2008 remake of the entire series, which was even longer than the original. Gauri was around in that one as well. So when you think about, with you as an example, you talked about this universe inside of you. How did those experiences begin to shape the way you looked at the world? And how do you think those affected the Indian consciousness, that people began to really enliven these spiritual values? You saw that how your grandfather changed the way people experienced their inner universe.
So I don't think it's completely right if I have to talk about how it shaped the country. But yes, I have heard stories, many stories, that it did change and shape people all around the world, not only the country. But I can definitely tell you what it did to the family, and a family of 40, that's a large one.
Right.
So
your family really was the microcosm. Yeah, let's stay with the microcosm of the whole.
I mean, I still see the seeds of Ramayana in all the family members. Like, it's been so many years and we haven't spoken about it, but I'll tell you one small incident. What really happened was there was an argument between my cousins, and it was a very heated argument. And I thought it's going to not stop for a while, and suddenly it stopped because one of the cousins looked at the other one and said, you know, if you don't stop now, I'm going to open my third eye and kill your ego. And I was like, okay. So they still use those, the terminology, and it's Ramayana, I don't think is, a lot of people ask, did it exist, did it not? For a family like mine, we do believe that it existed. We do believe that this text is very current to today's world, and which is why my brother and my father made the second version of Ramayana, 20 years later, that was. And now Shakti has also made a TV show on Hanuman, being inspired by the topic itself and the value of the text.
It's okay. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
Without Swamiji's presence, we'll be lost, but we'll still try to carry on. We'll carry on.
So also, I think the way it affected everyone was, I've seen, a family of 40, we are all humans, tempers are going to rise high, you're going to have problems every day, and I've seen it since I've been growing up. But somehow, the teachings of the Ramayana, and of course, other texts like the Bhagavad Gita, Mahabharata, which were being read in my house daily, we had to say 101 shloks before going to school every day. And I think what it did was maintain the harmony in the entire family. And I still see people respecting one another, understanding that people are different, and compassion is the only way you can get through an argument. So that's how I think it really changed everybody in the family.
Yeah, I mean, I think you mentioned something. Just I can imagine a family where, you're playing, and if someone doesn't do the right thing, they're going to burn them with their third eye. But that reminds me, and you said you felt that each of you maybe was some character in the Ramayana. Tell me, who was your favorite character in the Ramayana?
So mine has to be Hanumanji. It's though I really liked Ramji and I liked Lakshman as well, I think Ram's character or sketch as a character in the TV show was an ideal person who was an ideal son, an ideal husband, an ideal father, which is very hard for today's world to relate to, that how can someone be so perfect? So he did have he was Vishnu's avatar, that's for sure, but he did have some sort of divine intervention taking him through that ideal phase. But on the other hand, Hanumanji was a menace to society when he was young, very much like human errors, very close to the human being today. And he was cursed, right? While he was young. He had gone and eaten the sun, and there was darkness for so long. And the Rishi Munis were so angry with him that they told him, you will not be able to remember your powers for a very long time. And despite that curse, which is in the Ramayana, it's spoken about in one whole episode, is he still pushed very hard when Jamban, the king of the bears, tried to remind him what he was and what powers he had when he was much younger. In today's world, that's a large concept in science as well, that we as human beings have been so destroyed with our karma and our daily lives and just the lifestyles that we lead, in pollution, in stress, in depression, that we need to remember who we were when we were younger. So once he remembers in the story who he was, he leaps in one bound over from where he is to Lanka, goes and burns the entire Lanka, and he also goes to the Himalayas, carries this entire mountain of medicinal herbs.
Yeah, Sanjeevani.
The Sanjeevani, yeah. And he brings it back for not only Lakshman, but for Ram's entire family. So if you look at it from today's perspective, the younger generation really requires this. I feel it, I require it, I feel my younger brother, my niece, my nephews, everyone require it, is everybody forgets who they are. And everyone's a hero in their mind and their bodies when they're younger. They're a hero for themselves or they're heroes for their families. But we forget. We've been through too much. Life is not, we are in the Kali Yuga, and everybody knows the Kali Yuga is the darkest yuga of all. Like a simple thing like plastic water, it's right in front of me right now, I couldn't resist this. The plastic in this water is not good for us. That causes diseases that we do not know. We are flooded with depression, and the younger generation is like, there's so many suicides every day. The younger generation is more on antidepressants. They can't handle exams. They can't handle the little things that the older generation could do. And I don't think it's their fault. I think they don't have valuable texts like the Ramayana. They don't have access to that.
This is, you know, I think you're really on a very good point now, Gauri. How does Hanuman's life help this younger generation?
Yeah.
Because I think that's what's really inspired you.
Yeah.
I mean, how can Hanuman, the ultimate messenger, the ultimate devotee, the most incredibly powerful, how can that inform the youth of today?
Yeah, and you know, Hanuman was a sevak. Like today, if you look at the world, if you can make your neighbor happy and help someone because everybody needs help, you can be Hanuman. You can be what he did. He was an absolute example of a sevak, and I think that's what human beings can be today. There's no should. We can be like that today to help one another. Yeah.
So you think just this idea of seva, this idea of remembering who you really are, is like the key for the next generation.
Yeah, Michael, science is talking about this concept from many years that meditation takes you through a phase where you actually meet your younger self. The Vedas talks about it, that there is something inside you driving your body. And if you can meet that younger self, which we call a higher self or our gurus or anything, you can reach a point where you can deal with your daily life with less stress.
I can relate to that. I've been a long-time practitioner of transcendental meditation. Gauri just visited me in Fairfield, Iowa, where I'm from, and also learned transcendental meditation, which was taught by Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, who actually, as many of you know, was from Jabalpur. So it's an interesting connection to come back here. And he met his guru, Brahmananda Saraswati, who was also later became the Shankaracharya of Jyotir Math, right here in Jabalpur. So that's a very interesting connection. I think it's fascinating that that we've ended up talking about meditation, because this higher self that Ram embodied, that's really the key. Ram embodied, he was not only a young prince, he was also a great king, he was also a great warrior, but he was an embodiment of this wholeness. What do you think that, you know, and I think that's something very, very important to you. How does this wholeness that you learned from your grandfather, how can we radiate that through society, radiate from our own hearts?
All right, but I just want to support Hanumanji on this.
Okay. Hanuman, you can do Hanuman as well.
He meditated much more than Rama.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
He was a sevak, and he had to meditate every day to realize how he could be a better sevak. And it's shown in the Ramayana that he really meditated much more than Rama. So, but coming back to your point, you were saying something?
Yeah, but just, I mean, whether we're talking about Hanuman, who, you're right, maybe had to work a little harder. Ram was born with it.
Yeah.
But the active ingredient is that wholeness of life, that inner value, which Ramanand Sagar, your grandfather, that I had the fortune of doing one of the last interviews with Ramanand Sagar before he passed. That's how I became connected with the Sagar family. And I could see that he had that wholeness. That's what he was trying to share.
That's true, and I watched him while he was making the Ramayana. There was a lot of times he was not on sets, and his sons were taking over. One of them was my father, and the rest of them my uncles. And I followed him once to see what he's doing. And every time he went to his room, he used to sit outside and meditate. So one day I asked him, I said, "Aren't you supposed to be at work and not meditate?" And he told me that the way I create, the creative process is, right now, he told me I'm stuck in a scene and I don't know how to shoot it. I said, "How can you not know?" I was really young. I said, "How can you not know? You're making the Ramayana." He said, "I have to meditate to see the vision in my mind and then write that script." So I didn't understand it at first, but then after starting, meditation, many different kinds, I realized that he was not only meditating, it was not even a figment of his imagination. I think he was downloading data somehow from a higher realm, because it has to be that. You cannot do so much in one day on the sets of Ramayana, having a daily show where you're sending, a spot boy in the plane who's never been in an airplane with the tape, hugging the tape, saying, you have to deliver this on time.
I mean, that was amazing because at that time, by Western production standards, the idea of shooting an episode every day, and they shot many episodes, so they had a backlog of episodes, but then they were barely keeping up, just getting the episode in time to be aired. But this reminds me of a story that I heard about Ramanand Sagar when he first came to Mumbai, and I guess he wanted to honor the ocean, do a Varuna puja to the
Lord
ocean,
Varuna.
which is really, if you remember in the Ramayana, when Ram needed to cross the sea, he also had to do a puja to Varun, and here it was now, Ramanand Sagar is there just like Ram at the ocean to get his blessings. Could you share a little bit about that experience?
Yeah, actually, even I've heard that story. He spoke about it many a times to us, and he said that every time you enter a new country, a new space, physically you're entering a new dimension, and all you have to do is pay respect to nature. And I guess he was connected well to the ocean. So when he entered, the first day he entered, even before settling into his new home, which was a really small apartment in Dadar, he went to the ocean and he prayed to Lord Varuna for acceptance into the city so that he could succeed as an artist and a writer while he stayed there with his family. And it was a very influencing story, because it was so repetitive in my life where he kept speaking about it.
And that's how he took on the name Sagar. Because it was Chopra.
He was actually Ramanan Chopra, but then he made Sagar his writer's pen name, and that's how he became Ramanan Sagar. But actually, the surname is Chopra. Yeah.
And you told me though that this affected you, your inspiration of the work with the ocean, which you're doing now.
Yeah, in some weird way, it did actually. So, because there was so much emphasis laid on the study of nature versus worshipping deities and gods, even though we made TV shows on that, I actually got influenced by his story, and I started meditating with trees and plants, and all my cousins did that too. And we started learning the language of nature, and eventually I got very inspired by the ocean one day when I went down to take photographs. I'm a scientific photographer. I go underwater to take photographs. And I literally fell in love with the ocean and what it had to offer. So after that, I started my own company. It's called Water Matters, and it lays emphasis on creating awareness for clean water and the cleanliness of our ocean so that our air can be clean to access higher intelligence. It's an art edutainment company, and I make digital products for kids today.
It's amazing. I've seen some of Gauri's digital worlds that she creates, and it's an incredible learning environment to teach children how to honor and revere the ocean. What I find interesting about that story is the Ramayana affects all of us in our own way. It's for each of us to develop a personal relationship with the Ramayana, all the characters of the Ramayana. And I think it's beautiful from growing up with Ramanand Sagar, the whole Sagar family, and Gauri's made it her mission to save the ocean and help oceans and help really teach the next generation of children how to have a more honoring and revered relationship with the ocean. And I guess I'd like to close in just saying, at least from my own experience, that's been significant with me to find out some way really deep in my own relationship with meditation and finding this elusive quality of wholeness of life, which can bring peace to the world. Do you have anything to add to that as we close up, Gauri?
I do, actually, and it's, I have to say that if Ram had to build the bridge over to Lanka today, it would be fairly easy because we have a lot of these floating in the ocean today. And it's actually such a hazard for the cleanliness of the ocean, which contributes to 80% of the air we breathe on land. So I would request the organizers to please reconsider putting plastic bottles here and everybody else. Yeah. Thank you.
So thank you, Gauri, for joining us here today. I hope we've given you a little glimpse, a journey into the world of Ramanand Sagar and how his vision helped shape the vision of India with Ramayana. and also affected its family members. It's been an honor to be associated with them. We're all Ramayana-vasis. You wouldn't be here in this room unless you were Ramayana-vasis. So we honor all of you as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.